That's right. Welcome in, welcome back. Happy Friday, everybody. Good to have you here. Happy to see you. Good to be here. Uh, Here's what I like about this. Football stuff starting. We're actually talking about football. There's actually people writing about football. This is beautiful. This is beautiful. This is what we wanted out of our spring. So let's get things back on track with football activities, football discussions, not the off the field stuff. Quite frankly, it was driving me nuts anyway. So it's really nice to be able to get back to football articles, football interviews, on field stuff. Happy Friday, everybody. Thanks for being here. I have one main topic I want to go over today, and then I got to hit the road. I have some family stuff to do, but I kind of wanted to go over it based on some of what we heard in the last day or two from the Notre Dame guys giving interviews, talking, first time hearing from some of the coaches and new players, all that sort of stuff. So I wanted to go over that. If anybody wants to chime in with their thoughts, feel free to call, feel free to put it in the chat. And then this one might not go 2 hours. I don't know. So if you want to call early because I don't know how long I could go today. All right. So first things first, thanks for being here. Really appreciate it. And I'm feeling the spring renewal. We're all coming to life. It's going to be bright sunshine and bright colors and Easter bunnies and the resurrection. We're doing all of it. It's a rebirth of sorts for Notre Dame football. And it's exciting. It's just exciting. All right. It's spring. Spring should be eternal optimism for all teams. Nobody can lose a game. You can feel good about yourself. All right? And I just think that's important, especially after some of the winter Notre Dame and Marcus Freeman ad. I can't wait for this. All right? So obviously we're here on YouTube. Hit subscribe if you haven't yet. Appreciate it very much. Give the video a thumbs up. That helps as well. Notifications on that way. You'll be alerted every time a new episode drops. You don't want to miss it. Twitter, search bar Always Irish or at Always Irish Inc. Emails alwaysirishandy@gmail.com. Audio only anywhere you want me. You could get me. Call in line 312-900-8815. Fighting Irish Wire every day. They got the news covered every day. Go there, check it out, read. Sometimes I will do a video and then I will write an article that is related to the video. That doesn't mean you shouldn't watch both or engage in both. They make you think differently. The way I speak on here is done in a way to frame things to make you think about it one way. The way I write things, just the way you process writing, it's totally different. Totally different. Okay, so it makes you think of things differently. Feel free to engage in both. So let's do the roll call. I see a call or two, so I'm going to get through my points. They're going to be brief today, and then I'll give you guys whatever time we have. Nick Dean, here we go. I like this. Nick Dean looking to be seen. I like it. Hey, John, going to be at the Blue and Gold. Let me know where you are. Would be cool to share a beer or two. Here's the deal, folks. And I realized this last year too. In a lot of ways, in a lot of practical ways, the Blue and Gold game is the best one for any of us to meet up and hang out. It's so much more laid back, more casual. There's not 90,000 people all trying to do something and get somewhere at the same time. In a lot of ways, Blue and Gold's a perfect chance for us to meet more of you. When we get closer to it, we'll figure out exactly where everybody's going to be and get something going. That's a great opportunity for a meet and greet for everybody. Mikey Pulls, he's working out in the morning. Good morning. Happy Friday to you and the Always Irish family. Right back at you. Angela's working at her daughter's class today. Where's your priorities, Angela? No, I'm just kidding. Go help out at your daughter's class. Angela came to the Blue and Gold last year. She might come again. Pat's going to be there. If you watch my shows with Pat, the famous caller, he'll be there. It's going to be a fun time. So that's a great chance to meet up. Happy birthday, ND9. 59 trips around, and he feels every bit of it. Here's the thing. I just feel grateful that on your birthday morning, you're opening it up with yours truly. That makes me feel good. I'm not sure if that's a gift for you or a curse, but either way, I'm glad that I'm a part of your birthday day. Here we go. Let's see this. Right in our topic here. Anything you think about the quarterbacks, the quarterback competition, what Hartman said, what Googly Gigi said, Goodoogley, Goodulgy. I don't know. I just know it's not Googly Emmy, and I'm just trying not to say that. Goodulgy, Goodulgy. I don't know, man. That's one I just can't get out right. Mikey Poles says, Hartman is the guy for sure, but he did seem a little upset about the Tommy situation during the interview. Little does he know he's in better hands now, I hope. I thought it was as honest as he could answer that question without crossing the line to where it becomes its own storyline, if that makes sense. That's how I read that interaction. This is an older guy, been around the block, knows how to answer things, knows how to deal with the media. The guy's like 25, 26 years old. He isn't a 19-year-old, 18-year-old coming out of high school, learning how to do all this. He was asked about the Tommy thing, and he said, it is what it is. And then he followed it up by saying, I completely understand and respect the opportunity that this afforded Tommy. And it's just kind of inconvenient timing for me, but he's been around long enough. He just knows it is how it is. It is what it is. That was a perfect answer. Because I think everybody would agree it's disingenuous for him to go, oh yeah, it didn't matter at all. Like it means nothing to me. When everybody knows his relationship with Tommy is a big part of the reason he's here. So it would be disingenuous to just be like, that doesn't matter at all. Like, that's the one guy this guy had the most built up relationship capital with was Tommy. So him saying it is what it is, and I understand why he did what he felt he had to do for his career, and we're just going to keep it moving here, was the perfect response in a lot of ways. You got a bit of honesty, but it did not go too far to where it becomes a distraction or its own headline of, this dynamic. So I thought that part of it was really, really good. Really, really good. What else do we have here? Here we go. Andrew Gilmore. I heard that the Andrew Gilmore, good call the other week, by the way. I still remember it. Good call. I heard that the new OC and QB coach are changing the terminology. Big advantage for Hartman. If Reese was still there, Buckner would have started out ahead because he knows the playbook. I don't disagree with that, but then the question and the calculation then becomes, even if we were to grant Buckner a head start on the playbook and understanding the terminology, then the secondary question becomes, how quick does it take Hartman and his experience of having, this is his 6th year of doing this. How quickly is that guy able to wrap his mind around whatever's different, get with the program, and then his natural gifts and all these yards and touchdowns he's thrown for kind of take over? That would be my question. What is that gap that they would start at if Buckner knew all the plays, this guy didn't? How fast can a 6th-year guy close that gap? I'd expect it to be pretty quick. To be honest with you, if you're that good, I would expect it to be pretty quick. And not even that good, but that experienced. I just think a 6th-year guy should be able to pick stuff up fairly quickly. Dr. John, what's going on, Dr. John? I hope you're staying warm. You're somewhere real cold. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, on all the ships at sea. The Black Pearl. Here's a good point. Andrew Gilmore, the battle for third string is super important too. If Buckner transfers, that guy will be one snap away. That's a good point. Something I've thought about. I still don't think everybody knows exactly where Tyler Buckner's mindset is at should he not win this quarterback dynamic situation. Here's what I find very interesting. I've said this before. 419, you're going to be first up. Hang with me. Here's what I've said before about this. when Hartman first, all the Notre Dame Hartman smoke started coming out online and on Twitter, you heard that this might be a possibility. Then Hartman comes, and it's very interesting. From the Notre Dame writers that I saw, it was like, it seems like Buckner's really bought into Notre Dame and that vision and sticking it out of Notre Dame and all that. That was the kind of vibe I got from the Notre Dame end. By the Notre Dame end, I mean Notre Dame beat guys. Notre Dame guys at a publication, their full-time job is to follow Notre Dame's beat with football. I heard a lot of, I would expect him to stick around even if he loses the job, bought in as a Notre Dame guy. Here's what's interesting about this, though. When I look at some of the more national stuff during this time period, a lot of those guys were suggesting that Buckner might leave if he doesn't get the job and go somewhere right away and then just get out of here. But I found it interesting that there seemed to be a gap where the only stories about him leaving came nationally, and then all the more local ones had him sticking it out. I don't know if there's anything to take from that one way or the other. I don't know what you could take of that, but I did notice that difference. And again, I'm going to say it for the 100th time on this program. Tyler Buckner has had bad luck and bad timing in everything he did since like the last couple years of high school. And I've said it 100 times. Bad luck, bad timing nonstop for this guy. Either not healthy or a COVID year or a trip down the stairs, or right when the guy's about to get a lot of snaps, they bring in a grad transfer guy that seems to be jumping him. Bad timing, bad luck all around, and I feel bad for the kid because he's a smart kid. He's a respectful kid. He is a competitive guy. He is the ultimate competitor. Tyler Buckner just doesn't stop. He goes. And I respect the hell out of it in every way. Okay? Happy Friday, everyone. Sharky61. Good to see you. Oh, man. It's funny how invisible Steve Angeli has been in everybody's QB discussion. Sharky, is it funny or is it make perfect sense? Like, I kind of get what you're saying, Sharky, but like in some ways it makes perfect sense. Hartman's the new shiny toy that you have 5 seasons of work and arm work that we haven't seen at Notre Dame forever. And then Buckner was everybody's 5-star as a recruit pet project that everybody was dreaming for years that we are going to see open up the Notre Dame offense with his legs and his arm and be everything we wanted him to be. So when you look at it that way, I'm not saying it's fair, but I understand why Steve Angeli isn't really mentioned at all. Because how much Notre Dame quarterback energy and attention can one guy soak up? Now ask how much quarterback attention and all that can 2 guys soak up? I don't know how much more excitement's left. The way I look at this is we're already entering a spring with multiple Notre Dame quarterbacks. The fans are genuinely excited to see get out there and work. Genuinely. Not obligatorily like last year when I knew what I was going to have to sit through wasn't going to be that exciting because you didn't even have Buckner and then you knew what you were going to get below that. We were not in a good spot for blue and gold last year, right? Nobody can deny that. But I just think this isn't surprising at all. Like we're only used to having usually one quarterback we want to see do things in blue and gold. Now you got 2. Asking for that kind of excitement over 3, you're not going to have. I just don't think you're going to have it. And it's probably, while it may come off insulting to Angeli, it's a compliment to the program because it's telling you the bar's raising a little bit. The expectations are raising a little bit. There's an excitement about what Hartman and or Buckner can provide this year on a high-end quarterback level we haven't seen. And so it is unfortunate. And guess what? Like everybody else was saying, if Hartman ends up getting this job and Buckner says, you know what, Good luck of the Irish, my backside. I've had nothing but bad luck and bad timing. I'm going to go somewhere else where I can play a couple years right away. If that happens, then the magnifying glass on Steve Angeli, it goes up big time. So if that's the dynamic, Steve Angeli matters a whole lot more to everything. And then you better pray Hartman doesn't get hurt. And then you're in a messed up situation again. Then, but I can't operate this discussion under the assumption of a catastrophe happening in back-to-back years. Like, even as glass half empty as I am with Notre Dame due to some of my scar tissue over my life with Notre Dame, I can't operate under what if the worst case catastrophe happens to Notre Dame again in back-to-back years. Like, I can't go that dark. But Angeli gets a lot more important if there's an injury or if Buckner does decide to take his services elsewhere. D-Rock, good to see you. Jay Lehman, one of the nicest guys I know. Good to see you too. Crazy boy, good to see you. Always Irish, let's go. Here we go. What do we got? It's nice to have my coffee with Always Irish. Hey, John, ask your folks if they remember Don McNeil's Breakfast Club on the radio. It originated from Chicago. Anybody know what he's referencing? If you're of a certain age, it'll be right in your wheelhouse. Good to see you, Dr. John. Eric, thanks again for the big donation. Eric donated $50 for the cause on Wednesday, and I really appreciate it. Takes care of the phone lines for a while. I love that. Josh Miller, look at this. Work got called off today, so I'm calling in. You're going to be the first one up. Beautiful. Want to reward that. Homer TD, breakfast with JK and the Always Irish family. It doesn't get any better. Listen, it means a lot to me that you guys want to start your day with me. I realize that in some ways, some people might not be ready for that or need a couple cups of coffee before they're ready for me or something harder before they're ready for me. I get it. Oh, I get it. Here's some concerns, Cousin Luke. The new OC doesn't have an offense of his own, and Freeman is clueless about offense. It's reported the new OC was calling Reese, asking how the offense works. I want to believe that's not true, Cousin Luke. I want to believe that's not true. I just do. For it might be true. I want to believe it's not true. And we have things put a little more together than that. And if it is true, that's the exact dynamic that I said we needed to avoid this spring. And I took a lot of crap for. So if we want to play this out down this road, this exact dynamic you're referencing is the exact dynamic that I said could not happen this spring. Is that we get into these practices with limited media availability or whatever, and the Notre Dame people, this is way before the public blue and gold. I'm talking a week and a half into spring ball, right? We're not all there. It's not all recorded, but the beat guys get a window of time to go in there and then record a little video and then write about what they see. That's the number one thing Notre Dame has to avoid is when our media sees this operation this spring reporting, looks like a mess, don't know where people are going, and there's miscommunication, and everything looks kind of frazzled, and we're all learning on the job. The players are learning on the job. Parker's learning on the job. Gadouli's learning on the job. You need to make it look more natural than that, because that is just going to breed more articles of this is what happens when you do what you did at OC and you end up in this position. Like, that's how you end up in that position, and it needs to be avoided. It needs to be avoided big time. All right. I did not hear that. Here's the other thing. If I'm Tommy Reese and I'm down in Alabama, and then our new OC calls who got my job and says, how do you run this offense? I'd say, it's not my offense anymore. It's not my problem anymore. I'm writing up plays for these 5-star guys. You figure it out. If this actually happened, if I'm Tommy, I'm going, not my problem. Hang up. I'll let you know the next time I'm in town and we'll have a cookout and a beer. But it's not my problem anymore to help you figure out this offense. That's a Notre Dame issue and it's no longer mine. That's what I would have said. You want to meet up for a beer? Let's meet up for a beer. Tommy's got his own stuff to worry about, not Notre Dame. Like, I'm not trying to be a jerk. They might be friends, but work's work. I go, dude, you figure it out. So I don't know about that. What do we have here? Crazy boy. I'm just going to say this. If Tyler Buckner is the starter, long shot, then Tommy definitely used him wrong. That's an interesting way to look at it. And we're going to get to that, by the way. Here we go. Fixing network issues at work and listening to my boy spit it. Happy Friday. Radkey, good to see you. Hey, I got a question for you, Matt. Are you guys going to the blue and gold game again? I would really like to see your family again and crack a couple cold lids that day. Let's make it happen. What do we got here? D-Rock, happy birthday. ND9 Extra Shamrock. We got a good group here. You guys are generally really nice until we get certain trolls. Adam Dowling, good morning. Adam and I, we're like each other's counselors, but it doesn't work. Every day we're texting, what about this? What about that? I'm excited about this. I'm worried about that. All that kind of stuff. Stephen, good morning to you. Our fearless leader in Irish Nation. That's what I'm talking about. My brother, always good to see you here, Andrew. Always good to see you. It's good to have that family support. Good to have that. $20 holler. What do we got here? Buckner won't transfer if he does not start. Buckner will still get decent playing time this year to get him ready for the starter next year. That's very interesting. Very, very interesting. Here's my question, and I genuinely wonder this. If Hartman wins the start, by the way, thanks for the 20, man. You're funding the show this week. 50 the other day, 20 now. Appreciate you. Here's my question I genuinely don't know the answer to. If Hartman wins the job, there's a quarterback competition. It's a fair playing field with fairly equal snap distribution and talent they get to work with whenever you're doing this in practice or whatever. And Hartman wins the starting job. Okay. My question from there is, how do you use Buckner a lot, and how do you use Buckner a lot, and where do you use Buckner a lot? That is very, very interesting to me. Does he have his own package, mixing it up, being able to run more option looks or keep the ball to throw teams off? Is that something that you use maybe when you enter the red zone to spread teams out and be able to have them worry about more things? Or does that mess up the flow of a Hartman offense that goes down the field and you're in rhythm and you get down there, and then you're going to risk that by mixing it up, by taking him off the field? Those are questions I have. Like, that usage of Buckner, if he is not the starter, is supremely interesting to me. And then you have the other part of this is the part I just talked about was largely practical with how that looks on the field. The other part of it is there would be a part of keeping Buckner engaged, keeping Buckner more happy, getting some sets with a look that's built for him rather than riding the bench and having hostility and not getting in at all. So there's a big balance there. And again, that's just tricky how you play it. And these aren't the old days where these kids had no choice but to wait their turn or transfer and sit out a year. Like the days of that emperor ruling everything in college football, you can either sit there and wait your turn, or you can leave and sit out a year. That's all over. So now these coaches more than ever do have to cater to the whim of these guys and try and keep them happy more than they ever did 20 years ago, 30 years ago. It's just their rule or you're out. Very interesting question, how that usage is going to look if he does not get the starting job. Very, very interesting point. Thank you for the donation. I don't know. There's positives and negatives to that both ways. I could make arguments that I love the idea of mixing it up with a run set for Buckner to spread a defense out inside the 20, see what you could do. And I also would listen if you said, well, wait a second, you're going to have Hartman in the run game go right down the field, and then you're going to mess that rhythm up when you're in the 20s. How does that make any sense, John? I get that too. Like, I get that point. So that's A very interesting dynamic. Very interesting. Hugh Town, watched all the interviews with the new guys. Super impressed by all of them. All of them are going to be studs. And they were all well-spoken young men. Notre Dame does a pretty good job with this in front of the microphones. It is less stuffy since Kelly left. I've noticed that. The other thing is, it wouldn't surprise me if right now Notre Dame's in extra protect mode with PR and media. They got some scar tissue now after the offensive coordinator situation. Whether you think it was a justified reaction or not, depending on the story you're running with, nobody could deny that was a PR hit. Wouldn't surprise me if Notre Dame's tightening up all of those procedures and processes right now, and it'd probably be wise of them to do so. Would be wise of them to do so. Oh, what else do we have here? Good morning, Bruce in Jacksonville. Good to see you. Good to see you. I agree with you, John. I really hope all three QBs stay, including Kenny Minchie. Go Irish. That's the other thing. Like, that's interesting to me, too. Like, he ain't Dante Moore, but I'm still interested to see what this guy's got and see it early. See it early. Cousin Luke, Goolsby made a great point, saying starting Hartman would be possibly the worst thing Freeman could do. Starting Hartman, you mean like starting him as the starter in the spring right away without a competition? Or do you mean like in the fall? If he wins the job and plays the best in the spring, how could that be the worst thing Freeman could do? I need a little clarification, Uncle Luke. Oh, boy. Yeah, nothing. Here's a good one. Nothing like waking up to his voice. I wouldn't wish that on anybody, including my family. Kidding me? That's hilarious. Oh, man. Here we go. Cut the cord. Oh, let's see. What else? This feels like the offseason before the 2007 season. I hope I'm wrong. Here's the difference. There was no talent to be found on that team. There was no offensive line. Like, it can't feel that way just because there was no talent in the program. Like, literally, it was bottom of the barrel, almost no talent. Like, you can't even really compare it. The talent difference is so vast that protects us being in that kind of situation. Like, you want to say we're not going to be elite this year, make the playoff. I could get behind you on that and probably agree. But there's so much more talent than that time period you're referencing. We're insulated from that sort of problem. It's just not physically going to happen. Here we go. Do we have some clarification? Gino called Tommy Rees to get to know about the quarterbacks and where they are mentally and physically and where they left off. That's totally different than Parker calling Rees saying, teach me how to do offense. That's a whole different dynamic. It's a whole different dynamic, and it sounds perfectly reasonable. Oh, come on. What is this? Stop the nonsense that Freeman doesn't know what he's doing narrative or who he was hiring. Yeah, I mean, you're not going to stop it until the guys that he hires get high-end results. Like, I understand in theory, it's like support your guy, whoever he's going with, we all need to run with and support. I mean, obviously, I'm fine with that in theory. I want Parker to be great. But you're not going to, anybody who has the mindset of Freeman doesn't know what he's doing and who he's hiring, and it's the buddy system to not get rejected, whatever. The only way to stop those questions and tweets and articles and podcasts is for the Notre Dame offense and team to be good next year. Like, there are some legitimate concerns, and if everybody recruits well and plays well and gets along well and treats everybody right, then those issues are going to go away. Okay? I don't know the truth with all that. Who called who, asking who to do what. I don't know that. So I'm not going to wade too much into that because it's not something I'm immediately aware of. of who contacted who for what. But if I was Reese and Parker called me, I'd be like, you were my buddy when we were there, not my problem. Go figure it out, bro. Go figure it out. Mikey pulls. Come on, man. Hartman is the guy. How many more pick sixes does Buckner need to throw in order to understand that? We're going to get into this. It's on my notes. We're going to get into it. But I've had 419 waiting, and he donated. We're going to do 419, and then I'm going to go through what I wanted to talk about. Good morning, 419. Thanks so much for the donation. Appreciate you.
Hey, no problem, John. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. I'm just excited to get spring ball going, and it like hope springs eternal. We have some new things that everybody's really excited to see and some question marks. I would love to know where your mind's at as we begin this spring journey this year. There's a lot going on and a lot of new.
Well, I'm the yin to your yang. So I am extremely excited, and I'm actually looking forward to the defense. I know you want to talk about quarterback play, but I wanted to call in and kind of give you a reassurance of where I feel our defense is going to take several steps forward.
Please do. That is something that's been on my mind as a worry. I would love for you to go through that. Make the group feel better about it. Let it rip, man. We need it.
Okay, so on the defensive line, that's where let's just say the front seven is where you're most worried about, correct?
Correct. And in slightly differing ways, I have an inclination to believe at linebacker, there's enough different talent that's been recruited well enough the last couple cycles that I'm hopeful they'll be able to figure out some sort of rotation or setup that's a little more efficient and effective than last year. I think you have more pieces to work with there. On the defensive line, I'm worried that you literally don't have the bodies you need to, one, get the wall you need to stop people from just moving a pile on you, and then two, the edge and where are we coming with that? Like, I feel a little better about that. My primary chief concern would be not being able to hold up to the run up front.
Okay, I guess what I would say to that is that we're losing the Adamiolas, correct? And that those were two players that I don't think were even invited to the combine this year. Am I correct?
Yeah, I didn't see that. You might be right.
So we're losing those two guys, and then we're filling them in with Jean-Baptiste, I'm assuming, at the big end.
That's so fancy.
Jean-Baptiste. Riley Mills.
Yeah.
Inside of him, and then we'll have Howard Cross, and then we'll have on the other end, playing Viper, Bartello.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Bartello is going to give you the exact same thing that Isaiah Foskey gave you, in my belief, in my opinion. Jean-Baptiste is going to give you everything, if not more, than what Jason Adamiola gave you. And with him being able to be on the field with Riley Mills at the same time, where I don't think you could have played both those guys at the same time last year, I think the flexibility and the being able to move the guys around is actually going to give Freeman and I'll say Al Washington, both of those guys more freedom to have a front that will cause more chaos up front. There was not a lot of stunting being done by that four-man group last year because I just think they were all power guys. Every guy that we had was a power guy. We didn't really have anything to work off of that. And now this year, I believe we're going to have more flexibility and more range with our guys, which means they'll be able to move them around more up front.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with that. Let's. Here's a secondary part of that, though. I'm fine with what you're saying, but then here's another part of it is, what happens if one of those guys goes down? What's your rotation like in when you're playing Ohio State and you want to give guys a breather? Like, I just have a little feeling like the depth and rotative depth without dropping off might not be there. And the other thing is, like, I want to give you credit on this. you're making a point on like the Twins and we know what Foskey could be when he cranks it up, but like losing the Twins and all that. I guess it's a matter of knowns versus like unknowns. So like at least you knew what the base level of play you were generally going to get out of those guys and the spots they were going to hold. And so I just think there's some uncertainty when you're switching that much about that personnel. Like if I see it and it's fine, great. But until I do, I'm a little nervous. Do you think there's enough beef? Are we going to be able to stop the run? Where's Lewis Nixon? They're clogging up the middle, not letting them get 4 yards of push. Where's that coming from?
That's coming down the pipeline. That's not there now, technically. Gabe Rubio is going to give you some time up front. He's going to be a lot better this year. I think Aaronsburg, however you pronounce it, I think he's going to play a bigger role this year. He's a big man. I think what we're going to do is we're going to be lighter in the pants, but we're going to be longer with the arms. So I think the length is going to go past what the lightness goes against us. So I think our length is going to actually make us a better line, even though we're going to be lighter in the pants on the front.
I get that in theory and in concept, and I want it to be true. I also just think of the big 3 games, and I just envision the 3 teams with the most talent and the biggest beef up front that we play trying to run the ball. And if you don't hold up front right away in the run game, everything else gets a hell of a lot harder. That would be my number one concern. In the irony of all ironies, in the last 25 years, I've never felt so good about Notre Dame's secondary. And then right when I feel great about the secondary, I say I have all these questions with the front 7. Like we can never have everything in a great spot at the same time, it seems.
Right. And I guess what I could counter say to that, and we both know that Navy's not the perfect team to use as an example, but Navy's front is extremely small. Their front is extremely small, but they wreak havoc up front on the run defense. Their run defense last year was amazing, not just against us, but all year. And it's all about scheming up front now with those defensive linemen. And they are, perfect. In a perfect world, we'd have 2 Lewis Nixes up front, and then we could really get after it.
Yeah.
But I think the way Freeman and I don't know about Al Washington, but I think with Al Golden, I think they want the more athletic guys up front. When I look at recruiting, I look at the 4-man class they brought in last year. There's not one big boy other than Devin Houston, and he's at 282.
But was that by plan? But that's my question, though. I'm not saying that was the plan. I think they tried to go after some guys that could, I don't think that was by design. You're not trying to have a big-bodied, heavy anchor in the middle of that line, I wouldn't think. And so I don't know, man. And then let me ask this. I'm a little worried about that rotation being light up front and outproductive in stopping the run. That's my chief concern. Number one would be stopping the run before getting off the edge and sacking the quarterback. Stopping the run's number one priority. It's stopping the run's my number one priority that sets the tone for everything. Let's drop back a level of the defense. I felt like those linebackers last year, they were touted all August as like unit to watch, most going to be very improved. Marist is coming back off the injury. Like they're going to be flying around. I felt like there was just something a little off with that group all year where they were just a second late to recognize or a second late to shed a block or a quarter second late to get home on a blitz. All year, I felt like there wasn't this perfect gel there. What do you feel about that linebacker group? Are you happy with the personnel? Do you want to see some younger athletic guys get more of a shot? Do you think Al Golden will tighten this up? What's the deal with that middle level of the D?
Well, I would agree with you with Marist that it was all year. Marist was a problem all year long. And it's kind of like, they told us so much about him before it got here that we thought he was going to have a cape on. And when he got here and was underperforming, and they never substituted him, I think him and Bertrand played more snaps than basically anybody.
Yep.
But I agree with you with Maris. He should be on the sidelines this year if he doesn't get any better. But I think JD really changed his game the last 3 or 4 games of the year last year. It looked like he was really starting to move towards the ball. And he's not the most athletic linebacker that we have, but he was still flying to the ball the last, I would say, 3 or 4 games. It looked like he was starting to get it. He was doing his run fits. He was getting off blocks a lot better. He was, like he would just pop out of piles and make the tackle, it seemed like, at the end. So I think JD is where he needs to be. I think Maris should probably be holding the downs marker. I don't think he should be on the field at all. I mean, special teams, I think you can still play him, but I don't know. I haven't been hearing a lot of great things about Collie, but I have been hearing good things about the other linebackers, mainly Nolan Ziegler, to tell you the truth. I've been hearing, and before, now that we're on here, I've also been hearing good things about Donovan Heinisch, and he would be a good defensive lineman maybe if he can beef up as well.
Yeah, he needs to beef up. And the other thing with that is, the mentality you're getting with too. Like, it's the Heinisch brothers. Yeah. So I love that you just know that guy only wants to do one thing, and it's mash other people's heads in across the line. Like, I love that. Just building that into the cake, baking it in, that I love that guy has that little Heinisch work ethic screw loose, like wanna bang. I love that.
Yeah, like he didn't get enough of it in Pittsburgh and in Pennsylvania. Like it just wasn't enough for him. Like he wants to come here and still crush some heads, and I love that. His brother, who didn't get drafted, had a hell of a year last year in the pros, so like he's just got that chip on my shoulder, man, blue collar, love his mentality.
So here's
back to the linebacker. Yeah. I would say that we need to definitely get some. Inside, I think we're going to be okay. It's the athleticism on the outside. Kaiser worries me. Anytime he's got to cover somebody, he needs to be off the field. If it's third down and Kaiser's on the field, it better be less than 2 yards.
Yep. And that's another. Are they going to run the 3-3-5 as a base set? Do we know that?
We don't know that, but I think everyone's going towards that. And I don't think it's 3-3-5. I just think it's subsets. Everything's going to be subsets, and we don't know what we're going to have. I mean, the other team determines what we're running. I think we're not going to know until we see what the other team is running. Against Navy, we're not going to know anything because we're going to have basically a 5-3 there.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Here, let me
tell you this about Bertrand. Here's what I've seen a million times in print and Notre Dame guys that do more X's and O's. Like, I make no bones about it. I'm not an X's and O's expert. That's not the point of my show. I'm not trying to be that show. But when it gets brought up to these guys that are, and they say, why can't these younger, more athletic, faster guys, Collie, Sneed, them guys, some of the younger linebackers get a chance, blah, 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 blah. Bertrand looked slow. He got burned, whatever. Those guys always say, nobody recognizes the plays where Bertrand's just where you need to be to make a play or to clog a hole or do whatever. You only hear about it when that one mistake happens, that he makes the wrong step or is late and gets burned. And so that's the argument. It's like, you don't notice the guy when he's where he's supposed to be and doing his job duty. It's only the ones you don't recognize. I just think that unit needs to get better, and the whole defense. Can I ask you another question about the defense? I want to know if this is a statistical anomaly or what you think of it. How could it be reality? How in the hell can it be our reality that Notre Dame ended the year second to last in allowing touchdowns once another team gets in their red zone? I feel like Notre Dame had way too much talent last year to end up second to last in that number. Is that structural? Are they running some set down there that just isn't going to work? That doesn't add up to me. And if you fix that one little problem and turn half those 7s into 3s, Notre Dame's way ahead. What is the story there?
Well, is that by percentage? Do you know, John?
I think it is. And then I was told Notre Dame didn't allow as many teams in the red zone as much because they're better at between the so the number isn't that big. But once they're in the red zone, we just usher them in. Ole. I think there's got to be some small things you could change with your setup to stop some of that problem.
I think one of the big problems is that we played man a lot. In between the 20s, we play man on the outside a lot. And then we do a zone under and usually a man over. And I think that once we get into the 20s and everything gets condensed, he would switch the outsides to zones and the insides to man a lot. That way he could free up the safeties. And to blitz, unfortunately, he did a lot. But yeah. I think what we need to do
It's unfortunate when you never land it. It's only unfortunate when you're always a quarter second late.
Right, especially when you're coming from the goalpost half the time.
Yeah. In slow motion, it looks like. Yeah.
Right. So I believe that if we would just maybe, and it always seemed like it was long drives that got them down there to get to the red zones.
Yeah.
And by the time they got down there, we had our third rotation in and maybe not all of the personnel in that we needed. It always seemed like it was one of the young guys getting beat when it was just because it was their rotation in.
Right.
And I think this year we have to be more conservative, like concerned with getting the best guys on the field in those opportunities. Like once we get inside the 20, I don't care if it is your rotation, we're putting the ones back in and starting with the ones, you know?
Yeah.
Everyone's got to be on that same level. And, you know, at the beginning of the spring last year, they were talking about how much communication there was, how much great communication there was between the back end. Everybody was always talking. Al Golden's making sure everybody knows what they're doing. But no offense to Brandon Joseph, but he was checked out that whole second half of the year.
Wasn't there didn't he have an ankle and then it wasn't the same? Didn't he have an ankle and then was never the same? And then it was, I don't want to say this, but not a liability, but you weren't getting plus play at him most of the back end of that year. You weren't.
No.
Didn't Foskey run faster than him at the combine? Am I dreaming that? Or did Foskey not? He ran fast. That can't happen. That shouldn't happen with the safety. Should it?
No.
That's weird to me. I compliment to Foskey, but that's a little alarming to me. Come on, man. Come on.
And I think the problem inside the 20s as well is that our defensive line was not stopping the run. So we were more concerned with stopping the run inside that 20, which gave up stupid drag routes.
Yeah. Yep.
Right behind the second level. It seemed like they were always right behind the second level, and that's where they were making their head.
Did it not feel like every time
protect that line?
Every time there was one little gap, it felt like there was a little touch pass thrown right into it. Like wherever those guys weren't, the ball landed right there in a gap, and it just seemed a little off. And Al Golden's seen a lot of football. We're looking at 40 years of defensive football. I am very hopeful they will be able to eliminate some of those bigger picture issues. Here's the other part of this, and I'm very open to this. While I have questions about this defense in mass, in totality, on offense, assuming reasonable health, that group should take a major step forward in what they're capable of. That helps the defense right there, because the offense should be scoring more points and putting together more longer play drives. And that helps the defense stay fresh every minute they're not out there. That unit getting better can help the defense get better in some ways too.
Right. You don't have to take the chances now. Cam Hart doesn't have to pressure that sideline anymore, right? He can give up a little bit of ground. He doesn't have to get beat on the outside now. He knows he's got an offense, that's going to give him some help now. There's a lot of guys out there. No spectacular plays need to be made by that defense anymore,
Just
so they're
be
not going to
solid.
give up a 3rd and 18 on a damn
Yeah.
draw play or a screen pass now.
Yeah. And here's another thing too. One of the things that I'm most happy about entering this year is having Benjamin Morrison be what he is and what he's about to become at his age and class grouping in this position group that has been a concern for Notre Dame most of my entire cognizant life. That is beautiful. That is a leader on the field, off the field, good young man, making plays. Beautiful. Absolutely love that.
Well, let me ask you this also, John. I know me and you both feel the same about Marcus Freeman. We think he is the right man for the job and the right coach for the job. And I think we both agree that one of his best attributes is self-scouting himself and his team. So I think with this last offseason, he had no idea what to do. He was a new head coach. He didn't know what Al Golden knew and didn't know.
Yeah.
He didn't know what the next year was going to be. But now that he's had this offseason and he can go back and every little thing, he said he needed help finishing games and that he was running practices wrong, and he changed it in the middle of the year last year. He's going to come out this year, and everything that was wrong with that defense last year, it's going to be a point of emphasis going into this next year.
Yeah, you're right about that. But see, year 1 to year 2 are just totally different animals for a million different reasons. That whole first year acclimation thing, there is so much Freeman had to do and learn and go through and experience and get the hang of and learn. There's just a lot that was in the mix. However, nobody wants to hear about that now. Like you're out of that year 1. We understand you're easing into it. People want results now, and it's a challenging schedule. So the leeway there is getting kind of short, and people are going to start expecting big time results here. So I'm excited. You know how they always talk about game 1 to game 2? You often see teams make a big jump in play from week 1 to week 2. I'm wondering what that looks like year 1 to year 2. As far as the head coach being more settled in and comfortable, or because there's so much new staff, is it still kind of a challenge? I don't know. I don't know about that.
Well, the new staff thing isn't that big of a deal to me. Last year, there were 7 new coaches in new positions last year. This year, there's only 3. So I really don't think the staff turnover is as big of a deal as what we think it might be. The only problem I see is with the staff is he going to be willing to make some difficult choices when it comes at the end of this year?
Yeah. And
year 2
yep.
You're 100% right. Year 2 is vital for him.
Yeah.
Because we have to see what he does. If he does have a bad year, we want to know if he's going to make the changes right away or if he's going to be a BK and make them too late.
Yeah.
They always say hire late and fire quick or whatever, So we have to know that he's willing to do that even with the guys that he knows, which I don't think is going to be a problem. He's done nothing but make this program better since he's been here. And I just think as a defensive guy, he wanted to make sure that he got the offense to where he didn't have to worry about it as much.
Yeah.
So he could start to focus back on that defense again for him.
Yeah. And I just think it's perfectly fair to expect more out of year 2 than year 1. I was more than understanding of the inherited Brian Kelly roster flaws last year, what the wide receiver position looked like going into the year, the quarterback position, a lot of big time question marks. Now that we're out another year and he's getting his recruits in there from now on, like this is time. It's getting to be about where we expect the results, and you got a tough schedule, so you better figure it out this year.
Yeah. And the last time I called in, John, you were looking to talk to somebody that was at the Marshall game, and I was at the Marshall game. I wanted to be at Coach Freeman's first win is what we talked about before that.
How'd that go?
And
How'd that go?
It didn't go real well. And we were going to call afterwards on the way home. And I told my girlfriend on the way home, there's no way in hell I'm calling again because they're all going to blame me for it anyways for calling before.
I got to tell you, that was a rough show. I still remember it. And I fired it up right after. That was a rough show. So it's probably better for
we listened to it on the way home.
Oh, my God. I'm surprised you didn't drive off the toll road.
I missed my exit on the way home off the toll road. We live in Ohio. I'm supposed to get off at 75. My girlfriend looks at me and goes, "Why are we in Woodville?" And I go, "I don't know. I completely missed my exit listening to John, and I'm super pissed off." So, yeah, we missed our exit, and it took us an extra hour to get home.
Oh, man. I'm sorry I did that to you. Are you going to go to Blue and Gold?
Oh, of course. Yeah, we're going for sure. Last year's weather was so good. We were hoping that we were the reason for it, so we have to go.
I'm telling you, man, I know people that got sunburned that day. It was like 72 degrees and sunny, and I know people that got sunburned in that stadium on Blue and Gold game.
Yeah. Yeah, my girlfriend wore a little tank top, and I looked at her about the halftime, and I said, "You ready to go?" And she's like, "No, I'm having a great time." I go, "We gotta go. You look like a lobster. I'm pretty sure people are trying to eat you right now. Let's get out of here."
Yeah,
so we had to leave. It was sunburned.
It's better than cold, sleet, and rain. Because if the forecast calls for that, I'm not driving over. But if it looks decent at all, I'll be there. So we'll get in touch, and I want to meet up with as many people as we can. Have a cold one or something. We'll do that.
Yeah, that sounds great. Thanks for taking my call. Keep doing everything that you're doing. It's so funny, man. I listened to you before you came out on YouTube, and I just thought you were like this old angry man. And when you first did
I'm just a middle-aged angry man, not an old angry man, middle-aged angry man. Big difference.
And so I came home that day, and I made my girlfriend listen to your voice. And I go, "Who do you picture?" And she's just like, "I don't know, some old angry guy yelling about Notre Dame." And I was like, "Now look at him." And she goes, "No way, that's that guy's voice." And I go, "Yes, it is." And so then we started watching it on YouTube, and she just loves it now. So it's so funny. I love it.
Oh, man, I appreciate. Somebody just said angry man yells in basement. Yeah, but at least it's my own basement. It's not like I live with my mommy and it's her basement. And give me credit for that. I own my own home, and I'm yelling in my own basement. Isn't that okay? Oh, listen, man.
Hey, did your brother play in that tournament in Florida?
Did what?
Did your brother play in that golf tournament in Florida?
No, but that's where he lives, so I met up with him to go to it.
Oh, okay. I thought he was playing in it.
Oh, I wish. If he was playing in it, I would be the caddy, that's for sure. No, I would trust nobody other than myself to guide my brother around the links. That would be fun. Listen, man, really good call. Every time you call, you make good points, and like actual formations and all that stuff. Really good call. Feel free to call me whenever you want again. Appreciate it. Thanks for the donation too.
Well, a little history about me. I was the youngest football coach ever hired in Ohio on contract.
That's something to hold on to.
High school.
And Ohio's got a big history with football. I'm pretty impressed.
Yeah.
Well, then stay in touch. Give me a call whenever something fires in your brain, all right?
I will do. Thank you for everything that you do, John, and you have a good day.
You too. Take care. Have a good weekend, man. Oh, I see some of our resident trolls have returned for the day. It's kind of entertaining. People always want me to just ban people and block them. It's kind of entertaining. But it just depends on how far it goes. There's just certain things I can't allow because it'll devolve the chat into something I can't have. Cousin Luke, all I hear is more excuses as to why Freeman isn't getting it done. I mean, getting what done? Like, it's been 1 year, and it was kind of an up and down, frustrating year with a lot of aggravating circumstances. And now we're trying to go into year 2. The recruiting didn't finish in the last cycle as high as we wanted and as high as it could have and should have without some outside factors. And now Freeman's trying to go into year 2. He's not getting it done. Like, I mean, Yes and no. Yes and no. Like Freeman's not getting it done. Like getting it done in what way? What do you want him to do right now in the middle of the offseason that he's not doing, I guess, is my question. Here we go, cousin Luke. Freeman lost all 3 5-star recruits that were on board when he took over in the 23 class. Here are a couple things to keep in mind. I'm going to try and say this calmly to not give this guy the joy of having me flip out this early on a Friday morning. Okay. Freeman lost these guys. Here's number one. If the old guy coaching the team was here, Notre Dame would have never even been in a position to be able to lose or get these guys. Number one, you got to realize that. Like that's the risk here. Yeah, Freeman got burned and we were all upset that those guys didn't end up in the class. If Kelly was here, he wouldn't even have gone out those guys or Adam even silently committed or verbally committed at all. He wouldn't put in the effort to recruit and woo guys at that level. Kelly wasn't interested in doing that the last couple years towards the end. Kelly and the administration had a stalemate. I think they weren't giving him some of the resources he wanted, and then he quit recruiting as hard as he could. That's what I think happened. The old guy got them to commit. He wasn't involved with come on. Here's the thing. What did you want Freeman to do? What did you want Freeman to do? Print off a bunch of money in the Goog basement? Like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what you want. I don't know what you wanted him to do. Like, some of this comes down to money. What did you want him to do? He sold the guys on the mission. They had the grades. I don't know what else you wanted him to do short of printing money in the basement. Like, that's the question. I'm not blaming Marcus Freeman that he didn't land those guys because I think he did whatever he could. And if there's other stuff going on and those guys go for it, I don't know how you want Freeman to stop that. I don't know how you want Freeman to stop that. Like, I don't know. I just don't know. So, all right, let me get to one more thing here. All right. I'm going to talk about these press conferences that happen. Let me see. I had something else starred real quick. Let's see. All right. I just hit a dumb button. Who knows what that just did? Who knows? The same guys who are saying Hartman is the next great thing will be screaming for him to be benched when he throws his first pick in a crucial moment in a game. I mean, isn't that the reaction whenever a quarterback throws an interception in a game? Like, those who are saying Hartman's the next great thing, I'm not saying he's going to win the Heisman, but I think he's in the position to be the best guy to put Notre Dame in a position to have a good year next year. Those are very different things. Would I prefer to have Caleb Williams? Yes, I would, but we don't. I'm not saying this guy's guaranteed to win the Heisman. I just think he might be a more reliable option to start the year at quarterback for Notre Dame this year. And it's like, if he throws an interception, we're going to call for the other guy. The other guy has as many interceptions as he does pick sixes as he does touchdowns. So people really better think about that. Like, just logically look at the body of work. Look at the body of work of Hartman. What does he have? 110 passing touchdowns or whatever, and then however many interceptions. And then on the other side, you have Buckner, who literally has almost or exactly as many pick sixes as touchdowns. Which one of those seems like a more reliable bet to you as far as a guy to rely on in a critical year? Like, if you're looking at that big body of work, it doesn't logically make sense to go with Buckner unless you want to just talk about upside. And if you just wanted to talk about upside in college, yeah, it's probably Buckner because he's younger, more mobile, and has multiple more years of which to grow. However, Notre Dame did not feel they're in a position to be able to take that kind of risk in this year, given what happened last year. Are you following me? That's a big part of this. Going with the young potential, not heavy body of work and all that, doing all that last year, burn us, and it put us in a bad spot. The staff was not going to expose themselves to that risk. And so that's how we ended up in this position. If you wanted to argue to me, in college upside, it probably is Buckner because he's younger, more mobile, and has more years to do it. But that's not the only factor. That's not the only factor. Notre Dame refused smartly to put themselves in a position they were in last year where even if the guy's healthy and plays, you have no idea really what you're going to get. And if he goes down, then you're bumping down again, and then you're in a pine midget situation all over again that nobody liked. So you got to understand why this is happening, okay? What do we have here? Logically, I agree with what Goolsby said about the QB situation, the repercussion of starting Hartman. I didn't see Goolsby's conversation. So I can't really, I'm not comfortable addressing that because I didn't see it personally. And so I don't have much to say on that. I would love to look into it and then get back to you on that. Thanks for taking my call. You're the best in the biz. Josh, I really appreciate the support and a well thought out call. Let me go back down here. All right. I got a couple things I want to go over on these press conferences that we saw. And so let's get into it. With Gadulgi, the QB coach. One thing here's number one I liked. When they were doing these interviews and Gadulgi was up there, I liked being able to hear our Notre Dame players hooting and hollering on the other side of the wall. Looked like they were working out, sounded like they were working out or something. Hearing those guys yelling and all that from the behind the screen where the interview was, I liked, and I thought that was a nice touch to start the spring. I really do. So I think that's beautiful. But then one thing that this quarterback coach said that made me laugh, he said he doesn't mess with guys' motions. Lower leg work, sure, like the fundamentals of that. But with the arm motion, he's like, I'm not going to mess with that because that's why those guys got a Notre Dame scholarship is that natural arm, whatever they're working with their motion. I don't want to ruin that. It sounds like the exact opposite of BK, the reverse QB whisperer. All that I used to hear all the time that these guys would come in and Kelly would mess with their arms and then they're in their own heads and it's not natural and then you got a big problem. So I'm already excited that this guy's just going to let a guy's natural motion be that and then fine tune it from there. So I do think that that's beautiful. Here's the other thing. He seems genuinely excited to work with real quarterback talent here, not just one guy, but maybe multiple. All right, that's beautiful. And it does seem like there's going to be an official quarterback competition. He said Buckner's not laying down for anybody. That's how it should be. Like, you can't go into it and it's just like, here's an example. Whoever the backup is at USC, they're not going into the year going, don't try hard because Caleb Williams is the starter. It doesn't matter. Like, it's a competition. You want that. It's healthy. Competition is good. And Buckner's a great competitor. And Hartman is very confident in his body of work. This should be good for everybody involved. Push each other. Healthy competition. One that I think Hartman's going to win. And if you want to say it's quarterback competition with like whatever it is, fine. So you need to have this competition. It keeps everybody engaged. It sends the right message. The other thing is Hartman is coming in from the outside. I do think there should be a process of him proving his worth to the other guys in that locker room. I do. I do. Okay. So I just think that's all in the mix. And was Hartman told behind the scenes he has the job? Probably not. Probably not. Because I think that he thinks whether there's a competition or not, he's going to win that job. And therein lies the confidence that a sixth-year guy who's been a Power 5 quarterback would have. So I have no problem with this being a competition and all that. I'm sure you could argue, if you're in the camp that believes it's Hartman 100% and it's not close. Let's say you're somebody who believes that. The argument against this being a genuine competition would this spring and then early into camp or whatever would be, John, I don't think this is close. I need Hartman to get way more of the snaps to get everybody on the same page with the starting offense. I can't be wasting them snaps, giving them to Buckner. That could be the argument. But I think it's important to keep Buckner engaged. I think it's important to keep Buckner engaged. And the other thing is, if you end up in a situation where this quarterback competition or whatever, however legitimate or illegitimate you believe it is behind the scenes or in people's minds, if that competition is close and it's being reported as being close, that's a good sign for everybody. As long as the competition's close because they both look good. If the competition's close and they both look bad, I'm not excited. But if it's close because they both look good and bring different things to the table that can help the offense, that's a good thing. I think that's a good thing. I do. Let's see what we got here. Michael, Sam Hartman is great, but he was never on the level of Tyler Buckner as a recruit. He has more experience, not upside as an NFL draft pick. I mean, some of that is kind of the nuance of what I'm trying to wade through, right? Like, okay, he was never on the level of a quarterback as a recruit. Fine, I acknowledge that. That's a fact. So Buckner was a higher rated recruit. However, at what point do on-field results in college outweigh the recruiting part? I think 5 years of body of work is more than enough to do that. But if you want to argue that maybe Buckner has more upside to grow from where he is to what he could become in college, I think I agree with that. Younger, more mobile, more years left. However, Notre Dame does not feel they're in a position they can risk that adventure again this year after trying it last year and getting burned. I think that's what it comes down to. Them going after a grad transfer quarterback told you that they couldn't trust it. I don't understand what... Michael, Tyler Buckner was a 5-star recruit. Wake up. Fine. But I'm not getting things on the field done. So what does that do for me? He was a 5-star recruit last year and then got hurt. That doesn't matter to me then. He was a 5-star recruit. Now he's going to compete against Hartman, and we'll see where it happens. But I'm so far past thinking about Buckner's star rating, figuring all this out, like I'm years past that being a factor. I'm looking at now. Not what he was rated before an ACL or whatever. Here's the other thing. Let's get into this. Let's get into Hartman specifically. I want to talk about Hartman's responses to the pressers. Here's my takeaway. This is an old G in terms of college football. That's my number one takeaway. The guy's been around the block, and you could just tell in the way he talks. He spoke kind of like a battle-tested level of maturity of all this that I appreciated. And it just came off mature for a college player. And it should be because he's 25, 26 years old. So there was a sense of maturity there, a battle-testedness that I feel kind of. When he was directly asked about Reese leaving, he kind of gave a little short laugh and then said it is what it is. That's the most fair response to that I could possibly think of. It is what it is. That's the response. He totally understands why Reese had to jump at that job opportunity while acknowledging it was kind of inconvenient for him because that's the guy he had the best relationship with. I think that's perfectly fair. I think that's perfectly fair. So I can totally see Hartman being a little frustrated that the guy he just got closest to is now gone and jumped to Alabama, but he gets it. And he's here and we're doing this, right? So we're going for it and it's not ideal, but we're moving forward. Here's my conclusion with all that. Sam Hartman seems ready to win. You could just tell the guy's ready to play, ready to win. I think he's confident. He's going to learn what he needs to learn. He's a sixth-year guy. And make no mistake about it, there is a very direct give and take here. Notre Dame wants a guy to avoid being in the situation they were in last year. That's why they went for a grad transfer guy, and they happen to get the top one on the board. All right? So you have that. But the other part is Notre Dame's going to benefit from that if it goes well. But the other part of this is Hartman came to Notre Dame to further his NFL stock. So there is a symbiotic relationship here where we're expecting to get a benefit out of this. So is he. This is a little different than I want to go there as a freshman and get my Notre Dame degree and be there 4 years and live that Notre Dame life and have all that soak into me 4 and 5 years. That ain't this. This is a different kind of mission. It's a modern mission in a way. But Notre Dame wants reliable quarterback play that they don't have to worry about all year. And this guy wants to help up his NFL stock. There's a lot on the line and a lot to gain. Everybody has the world to gain here. Okay? So then I think the question becomes, let's say it ends up being Hartman, or it's clear after spring it's going to be Hartman. I don't know. How fast does he gel with Parker? And the Goog Part 2 guy, how fast does he gel with him? What about those wide receivers? You know, if Hartman's able to deliver the ball on time and make all the throws, how much does that help speed up the learning curve of them younger receivers or year two guys that had trouble getting the ball getting to them last year? Then we got to talk about all that. Okay, then we got to talk about all that. Now, I see 707. I'm coming to you in 1 minute. I see some people asking about if Hartman was so good, why is he a 6-year guy and not in the NFL or whatever? I don't know. But that does not mean he's not Notre Dame's best option. There seems to be a gap here perceptually where it's like if he was that good, he shouldn't even be in college that many years or whatever. All of that is largely irrelevant to Notre Dame's dynamic. Do I wish it was Caleb Williams as Notre Dame's quarterback? Yes, but we don't have that. Of what we have, the idea is it's a 6-year guy that can make all the throws. You know what you're going to get, and that's just not going to be a worry that we have a quarterback who can't get the ball to people. Right? Listen, it's tricky. You say that excited about Hartman, and then the next 5 messages are, why are you crapping on Buckner? I have wanted and want Buckner to be great. His body needs to stay out of being duct taped together. That would help. But I'm telling you, Buckner, bad luck, bad timing, and then bad timing and bad luck, and then more bad timing and bad luck. I'm sorry. It's just bad luck. All right, so maybe Hartman's not 26, but he's on year 6. That's a long time. That's a long time, year 6. 707. What's going on today?
Hey, John.
What's up, man? What's on your mind?
Well, I wanted to comment about, you were talking about the rankings coming in of recruits and how it's really got to apply on the field. I have a personal story about that. In 1981, at Hamilton Southeastern, my Uncle Ron set a bunch of national passing records. And that year, Sports Illustrated said he was the #1 high school quarterback in the country. He didn't have the greatest grades, let's say, so he went to a JC, Long Beach State, where he tore, I think, his rotor cuff. And so his college career as the #1 high school quarterback in the country turned out to be a few touchdowns at a JC. So, and that's life. That's football. Injuries happen, life happens, and you got to keep plugging. But your ranking, once you get to college, your high school ranking doesn't matter anymore. It really doesn't.
Yeah.
It only matters what happens on the field. But the positive that I wanted to say in regard to the press conferences, I really think Notre Dame has a secret weapon right now, and that is the kids that are there and the group, the cohesion that they have. They seem to get along no matter what's going on. They seem to be focused on being the best they can. And when times get hard, that is priceless in a locker room.
You know what I'm going to say?
Gets hurt,
You know what I'm going to say about that? And even with the coaching changes, guys that come in and out of the staff, some that are expected, some not expected, whatever. I genuinely mean this. I feel like in a lot of ways, the players adapt and roll with it way better than the fans and the media do. I feel like they know the business, know how things go, and you got to just keep moving. And I feel like we're the ones, guys like me are the ones that get hung up on all that. I think that the players are way more resilient in a lot of ways because that's all they can do, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And at the same time, I think a lot of those players are aware of the fact that, you know, yes, you want a coach, you want your coordinators to call good plays, and they can mess things up to an extent. But what it really comes down to when they call that running play, it really comes down to what are those guys on the field doing? Do they get their blocks? Do they give it their all? And even if the coordinator doesn't call the best plays every time, that team can still win if they exceed the expectations of what they can do, and they go and they give it 100% every play. And I think we have that.
Yeah.
So regardless of all the sideshows and the coaching changes and, you know, questions about who's going to play, those guys love each other. They're playing for each other. And that is what's going to help this team most of all.
How do you think Notre Dame should / will manage this quarterback dynamic? What do you think is the most prudent way to approach this? And how do you see it playing out either in this spring or fall camp in August as well? It's a touchy dynamic. And I think everybody has kind of felt bad for Buckner with the timing and the health has been rough and all that. And I think a lot of people are also excited to see Hartman with an arm talent that we haven't necessarily seen around here lately. What do you make of this dynamic?
I think it's great. I don't see any downsides to what's going on. Obviously, you know, I don't want to see anyone get injuries or anything. But besides the intangibles, I think it looks great. I think we have one of the better quarterback rooms in the country. I think the kids are on board with being there and playing with each other and doing the best they can. What would excite me the most about the quarterback room, what I would really like to see, and this probably sounds crazy to most people, but what I would really like to see is one of those early games that we're playing of the not as tough competition that we're going to face.
Yeah.
I would really like to see at least 3 quarterbacks play in a game. And I would like to see Angeli get on the field and Buckner, even if, you know, Buckner's not starting, let's say.
Yeah.
I still want to see him get on the field and play some. And I want to see Angeli get out there and play some. Not just because I think they deserve it for all the work they're putting in.
Yeah.
But I think, again, you never know what's going to happen. My uncle's torn rotator cuff, that happened in 1 second, and his shoulder was done, and his future NFL career over in 1 second. You've got to have backups ready to go, and I think giving the guys some game experience is crucial to that.
Here's
so
what
I
I
would like
want. Here's my problem with this, and I've said this forever. Here's my issue. Everybody always says we're at the backups 1 snap away. We need everybody to get these snaps and whatever. So then I say to myself, the only way you're really going to get that is Notre Dame kicks the crap out of some team enough that we're winning by enough. There's no risk of losing. And then you can put in your second guy or your third guy. But then let's take it a step further. How much better do you get if they do what you're saying and put in those backups, second or third string, but then you're not even trying to run anything. And then all you do is snap it, hand it off, run it into a pile, let a minute run off the clock. And then you do that. Like, I want to see some of what you're saying, but I want to see them actually let these guys run stuff, trying to advance the ball, not just drain the clock. That is maximum getting output out of that. And it just kind of sends a message. Notre Dame isn't stopping for anybody. We're not slowing down for anybody. Sorry, we're winning by a lot, but our second string guy's going to win by a lot on you, and we're still going to move the ball. I would like to see a change in that mentality a little bit to where we just have no mercy and go back to working on us.
I agree, and I would say I don't have the same qualms that other people do. I say one of those early games, 1, 2, or 3, ahead of time, coach goes in and says, all right, you get a quarter, you get a quarter, you get a quarter, and in the fourth quarter we're playing our freshman is going to come in because you guys, between the 4 of you, are going to get the job done, and he gets the fourth quarter, and I don't care what the score is.
All right. Yeah.
I would really like.
I would like it, but that's not how they think, right? Like, I would like it too.
I know.
But let me. All right. But wait. Let me ask this.
But that is what should be done.
Let me ask you this. Practically. Okay. Follow me here. Let's say there's a legitimate competition this spring. Both Buckner and Hartman look good. Then we get into August, blah, blah, blah. Same thing. All the articles written about it every day, whatever. Let's say Hartman ends up winning the starting job and we all know it, right? Or it's announced or it's obvious, whatever. My question for you is, from that moment on, whatever that delineation point is, whether it's this spring, whether it's already, whether it's mid-August, whatever that line is where they make the note that Hartman's our starter. I want to know, how do you think they should treat Buckner from then on? Do you build that guy running packages to mix in there to keep him in the mix and keep a defense worried about that? Because that's something he's good at. Hartman isn't, but Hartman's a more polished passer than Buckner. Like, how do you keep Buckner engaged? How much do you use him without mixing up the rhythm that you liked that you're getting, which is why the reason Hartman would be the starter. This stuff is tedious. How would you navigate using Buckner if Hartman's a guy?
You play him. I don't.
Goal line option where he keeps it and pulls it. And they have to, like, what are we doing? Because people are going to say then, though. People are going to say, how are you letting Hartman go all the way down the field with all this rhythm and then you pull him when you're in the scoring zone? How does that make sense? Like, you're going to have people on both sides of that.
That's not what I would do, John. What I would be doing is giving Buckner and saying, this drive is yours, or this quarter is yours, and we're gonna give Hartman a break. Hartman's a mature guy. I don't have any questions about him being mature enough to say, okay, Buckner gets the second quarter, and if he does great, we'll leave him in on the third, and I'll finish up in the fourth or whatever. I don't think Hartman's going to have a problem with anything like that. And I do think you've got to play the other guys, not just out of ethical concerns, but because they are the future right now.
Yeah. Well, and
Buckner's the future. Get them on the field.
And they're the future if one play goes wrong. And we learned that the hard way last year. That future comes quick when one guy gets tweaked. And listen, if you end up in a situation where we feel really good about two quarterbacks going into the year, that's two more than I felt great about going into last year. That alone would be a good problem to have, because it just illustrates how much light years ahead we were than starting last year, where we were encouraged about the potential of Buckner. But even if he was healthy, we didn't know what we were going to get. And that was a big risk for Freeman in his first year. But that's the dynamic. This stuff's complicated in a way.
It is. And it's, everything's more complicated than people give it credit for, including all this. I agree. It's a very complicated situation. But at the same time, what kind of message would it send if we go out in one of our earlier games and play 3 or 4 quarterbacks and give them, each one, Aunt Jelly gets a quarter, and we come out, we say, we're going to come out and we're going to beat you, and it doesn't matter who we've got behind center. We're going to come out, we're going to win, and all of our guys can do it. I think the message that sends, not just to the players, other teams, fans, I think that would be fantastic. And that's what I would like, to see the most, obviously outside of wins next year. But I would like to see the other guys get real game experience, not just for a play or two, because they can run and everybody knows why they're coming in. I don't think the run package with Buckner is a great idea, because A, everyone knows, and B, it's a good way for him to get injured again. I don't think you stop him from running.
Man, this poor guy.
Run, but don't sit there and go, okay, you're a running back now that we put behind center, because running backs don't last a long time. Yeah, and he wants to be a quarterback. So, but that would be the thing for me is show confidence in them, show confidence in the team to get it done no matter what's going on.
Hey, here's something I like. Here's something I really like. I really like that. Tell me if you agree. When I look at the offense last year and all the frustrations, just how miserable that offense looked, especially early mid-year. When I think about all that, to me, the two biggest things that were holding back the offense last year, once the offensive line got going, they were pretty good. Quarterback play, obviously we were in a dark spot, and wide receivers, we were in a dark spot as well. I think in one calendar year, both of those units, you could argue the most improved depth and competitively wise on the whole team. That's good work in one off season. They saw what we saw, addressed it aggressively, and I think we're in a way better spot in both those areas. And that is a really good sign that these guys get it and they see what we see and they're working on solutions.
Yeah, no, I think everything is heading in the right direction with Notre Dame. We want them to win a national championship every year. That's probably a little bit.
At this point, give me one before I'm dead. At this point, I'm asking for one before I'm dead. Can I get that? I was 4 the last time we won. I never experienced the emotions of it. I just want to one time. Just one time. I want to know what it feels like to be the best and have my team be the best. It'd be really good.
Coach Freeman wants the same thing, and I think he's trying for it. And I think he's got the situation to do it in. I don't see any reason why we're not going to be a playoff competitive team in the very near future.
And you know what else, too, man?
The right thing.
Here's the other thing. You bring up a really good point. You're talking about the future and putting us in this position. Another reason this year's such a big deal to me is because I believe in 24, the expanded playoff kicks in. And I expect Notre Dame to be in that 12-team field every damn year. It's 12. It isn't 2 or 4. You could go 10-2, lose your 2 biggest games of the year, and make the playoff field. That is going to be the expectation for Notre Dame. You better take this year to work out whatever you need to work out, because when we expand to 12, I expect Notre Dame to be in that field almost every year. And that is like a resetting of a clock for a lot of teams in a lot of ways. We got to be lined up, ready to hit that new playoff era hard. I want a home playoff game in cold South Bend the week of Christmas.
Sounds fantastic to me, and I think that's where we're headed towards. I don't see Freeman fumbling anything. I think we got a great coach. We got a great coach. We got a great university. We got a lot of great guys. We got a lot of talent, and everything's turning in the right direction. There's going to be hiccups. There's going to be injuries. There's going to be losses. These things happen, but we're heading in the right direction, and I think we've got all the ingredients we need to make the dish. So it's just getting it right. And I'm excited. I'm excited for this team. I'm excited for this upcoming year and the future, because I think we're building a team that's not just about winning in 2023. We got a lot of guys coming in this year that are going to be great players that probably aren't going to see any or much playing time. There are 24 and 25 guys, right? So everything looks good to me, John. Is everything perfect? Is everything going to be perfect? No, but we're heading in the right direction. We've got all the ingredients we need. And I think overall it's going to be a positive situation for just about everybody as things turn along.
Perfect, man. Really good call. I appreciate it a lot. Really good thoughts. Call me back anytime, man. Good to have you call again. Have a good weekend.
I appreciate it, John. Thanks for what you do.
No problem. I love doing it. Have a good one. And I'll do it as long as there's people here that want to talk it. All right, folks, that's going to be it. Johnny has real life stuff to go do. So I needed to get this going today to make sure we could hit it. And then we'll be back. I'm sure I'm going to post a video of something over the weekend. I have a YouTube short that I think some people are going to find entertaining that I'll drop over the weekend. And then we'll get into next week. We'll have live shows and we'll get into spring ball, and this will all ramp up a little more, culminating with the blue and gold game and reacting to what we see there. Everybody be safe. Have a good weekend. Have a cold drink. Life's too short not to. Have a good one.